Hello and a very warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Weekend Podcast, the Lockinge Edition. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, and as always, John Leng is my partner in crime. John Joe's Blogspot. John's absolutely on fire this spring. I've looked at his profit today. Puts me to shame. Absolute to shame, John. Something like to sort of £10, £20, £30 units, you're about 680 odd quid in front. Is that right? Before today, anyway.
I've probably miscounted, Lee, in all fairness.
Added a figure on.
I don't know how the hell I've done it, to be honest, to SB, really. I was kind of just hoping to keep my edible water, but I'm really pleased with how it's gone, in all fairness.
I think it's cracking. I think it's like I said, you're putting a lot of people to shame out there with those sort of numbers. So, like I say, folks, if you, I think John had his settings set to, he didn't want any scrotes coming up page, like that setting where it says no scrotes. And John's now ticked it or unticked it to let the scrotes view the page.
Ginger Rittler can have a look now.
And even Ginger Rittler is allowed now to view the selection. So, yeah, so John's been very, very kind there. So anyone that wants to give him a shout on Facebook, it's good banter on there as well. And they don't stand for any nonsense. So you will be ousted out of there if you abuse. Anyway, we'll come on to the questions for this show. And we've got a few, actually, about 4 this week. So thanks for that. And one of the first ones is a sort of a punting handicapping question from Joe Nathan, John. And he says, how much do you factor in the ground when picking your selections? You know, how important do you think it is? And he says also in big field handicaps where the field may split, would you say being on the speed and around the favoured horses is more important than the draw itself?
Ground, extremely important to me. You may remember I mentioned a while back I was very involved with Clark Watch when that was on the Betfair Forum, and we compiled an awful lot of stats about going stick ratings and what relation they actually had to the actual going forecasts provided by Clark's. And I wouldn't say it made me an expert on it, but it certainly broadened my knowledge of it. And I feel that I do utilise the fact quite well that I have a little bit better idea than most about what a stick rating is likely to produce at most of the tracks. With regard to the big field handicaps, it kind of depends, really. I mean, if it was a big field handicap at, say, Ascot or Doncaster, I think, irrespective of the pace, I'd be more inclined to look towards a horse that gets the trip well and is likely to be finishing its race off from a hold-up ride, rather than worrying about what's going to be making it. And I know it can be important as regards dragging them along, but I think it sort of evens itself out, really. Whereas, if you're on the pace at those tracks, chances are the pace is going to collapse anyway. So you tend to think that the side that took its time a bit might probably come through anyway. That said, when before the ruin things at Thirsk, you can have a bloody good tri-cast up most days when when the watering system didn't reach the stand rails. I mean, again, it was irrespective of where the pace was. It was a case of just get as much as you could on the draw and perm your 5 for the tri-cast and wait to collect.
9-10 Jack Queen King, John, weren't it?
That was lovely, wasn't it? I mean, it was a tragedy when they sorted that out at Thirsk, really.
Yeah. They've gone slightly the other way at first, though. I mean, if you on the straight course, it's quite weird this, right? Because I've done a lot on Thirsk, and the straight course on when it's softer ground definitely favours low numbers, definitely. But yet on the round course over 7 furlong and a mile, it favours high numbers. Now I can only think that's. I mean, do you remember the late Mel Britton, John, moaning about that first bend on getting chewed up on inner?
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, he did have a couple of kills there.
Well, yeah, fair play, yeah. But I mean, do you remember when he used to tell us, like at the races, Mel? He used to, that was his main topic of conversation. That bend at first. Ooh,
he didn't like it, like
no. Very chewed up, he said, on the inside. And that's why I think that the wide, and have you noticed in the straight, everything swings off at first on softer ground.
Yeah.
And they come down middle and finish down middle. So it's an interesting bias track first. I think it does need a bit of study. So in answer to your question, Joe, I'm same as John. Ground absolutely vital, and I encourage anyone to do the work by checking Turf Track's Going Stick archive and checking past reports from Clarks. Because let's be right, these Clarks are, I'd say, pretty similar to Stewards. You know, absolutely bloody clueless.
Born out of Finland's wonders is the phrase you're looking for.
Yeah. You've got to do your own work, because just because they say good, never take that as gospel. Look at the stick reading, look at the forecast for the last few days that the track's had, look at the forecast for the day ahead, and obviously build that into your betting. I think that's something that punters don't do, and don't do that thoroughly enough. And I think that's the first thing you should start. Every time you get up Saturday morning to pick your winners out, check them sticks and check that weather, past weather and present weather, and make sure that you're going into the day fully prepared for any thunderstorms, anything. And I think that
make your first job of the day seeing how far it's gone in.
Absolutely. Sounds like something for another show, that how far it's gone in.
It's a late night edition.
Yeah. Anyway, I get images every time you speak, Jonathan. Right, anyway, we'll move on to the next question. Thanks for that, Joe. Good question. Chris B. He's an avid listener. He's on Twitter, and he says, could we learn from the Irish about getting races off on time? Newbury and one or two other courses seem to be in a different time zone, John.
Well, he's absolutely right. I mean, the thing is, these courses are serial offenders, and they never make any attempt to catch up, you know? It's like they have to have a minimum of half an hour between races, you know? I don't see how this works, you know? I mean, it was out 8 years ago, you know what I mean? But they should be at a race every 20 minutes if we wanted them to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, things are an awful lot slicker, or they could be, if they actually managed it properly. You know, it'd be nothing to have a 10 race card, 20 minutes between. And it's like nobody ever seems to give any credence to that. It's crazy to me, you know? I mean, there's certain courses where they're habitually off late because they seem to take ages loading up. I mean, we'll go back to Thirsk again. Thirsk getting the stick today, isn't it? Anything that starts down the back straight at Thirsk, you can guarantee 3 or 4 play up before the race because the horse box parks are just the other side of the fence.
Same at Nottingham.
Yeah, and they all want to be back in the horse box.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't factor that in at all, you know, and it happens every meeting, you know, but these frigging zombies that's in charge, they just go boom, 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 meandering on, don't they?
Well, I think one of my pet hates is obviously you've got, say, a 16 runner handicap, just for example, with a start time of say 3:30, and you can guarantee at these Jockey Club racecourse tracks anyway, most of them.
Yeah.
That they put in the first one in just before 3:30, or 3:29. If you've got to get 20 runners in, you should be starting to load at 3:28.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting them in. And I think that's what's annoying. That it's all right coming up with these fancy race times on busy race days, but then, like you say, you're always going off 3 or 4 minutes after time. These JCR tracks,
Yeah,
and it's just absolutely pointless having these weird times if you can't stick to them. But yeah, fair point, Crispy. Really. Typical of our sport, our racing in this country. I mean, I'm in favour, John, of bringing. I mean, they won't pay for it. That's the problem. But outriders, because when you get the loose horse, they spend 10 minutes waving it down, and as it's running through golf course, putting green, and then straight out, back straight, and clattering through some railings, and then But if you've got an out.
Haley Moore can't attend every meeting, can she?
No, exactly. Yeah, you couldn't forget that. Haley, stopping that horse, brave lady. But like I say, outriders are very effective because not only that when a horse sees another horse, that's the herd animal. So it kind of whenever they come to the end of the rabid, break away from the stalls and run round the track, they'll see another horse, and that. So it calms it as well. So, as I said, it's win-win. What would it cost for an outrider? It wouldn't cost the earth, would it? What would it be? £600 a meeting, something like that. Transport, wage for the rider.
Well, if I got old Sparrow that used to ride out for Joe Mullall at 70 years of age, I'd probably get him for 50 quid for the afternoon. I'm not sure what he'd catch like.
Yeah. And it just makes the sport better. It makes the sport where you're not waiting for a race. Then you don't get race clashes because it took 10, 15 minutes to catch it. I just think, again, it's just racing that are short. They're selling the product short in terms of that simple common sense solution to what is really an everyday occurrence. I'd say every day an horse gets loose, John. Every day. And that's it. Anyway, good question. We go on to the next question, which from Mr. 101, John Hines, who's an in-running punter. Loves his in-running, does John Hines. He's good at it as well, I've heard. So he says, Ammo Racing, he says, could be one. Yeah. He says, sorry, it could be one for Sunday. But I'll point it out on this show, really, because I think it's a good question. Ammo Racing's business model, John. So they spend fortunes on 2-year-olds, basically, who probably won't train on,
Yeah.
He says, what would you guys do if you had millions to spend on horses? But the idea was to make money.
If the idea is to make money, I'd probably ask Mick Easterby to give me 3 of his that were out of training. I'd sell them to the soap works and bank the rest. If I had to do something with actual race horses to make money, if I'd been through my little book of suicide suggestions and I couldn't find anything suitable and I still had to press on and do something, I would probably buy a few off Dave Simcock, because I think there's money to be made if you started just riding a few of his a bit handier, really. We had this discussion this afternoon, didn't we?
Yeah.
I'm trying to persuade Lee to get his hand in his pocket and buy Smart Champion. And I think we can win an Eber or a November handicap with it.
Well, Simcock's the polar opposite to Kill,
Yeah. If there was only them two training, Simcock would never have a winner, would he?
I can remember a former trainer that's gone back down to Australia, came over here, Jeremy Gask, and he was exactly the same. Dropped everything out of the back of the telly, no matter what. It was going to be dropped out last, and he wondered why he was on 3%. He says, I can't train winners over here.
Yeah.
It would help if you sort of, change tactics now and again. But yeah, one dimension. I mean, Simcock and Spencer. It's like a match made in heaven. Everything drops out the back of telly. I mean, if you watch one as well, he had one last night against Crisford's. I forget the name of it, but if you look at the results anyway, and it was the one where Crisford's won. I think a day that was very impressive. It was the second horse that was Simcox. Yet again, dropped out the back. Brought through late, and it's just I don't know. I don't know what the
Can
game
you imagine
is really.
if Sil had to ride for him for a season? They'd end up having a physical fight, wouldn't they? That would come to blows. That.
Yeah, I think Sil would have withdrawal symptoms if he couldn't just bomb out on one.
Sil would be shaking like a shooting dog, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but yeah, what would I do? I mean, if someone gave me a blank checkbook and said, right, you've got to buy horses, I think the worst thing you can actually do is kind of spend what they're spending, because right, the thing is, it's a bit like bargain hunt. Have you ever watched bargain hunt? John?
Yeah.
Right, you get 300 notes. And it's like, right, go around an auction, go around antiques fair and pick up some antiques and try and sell them at auction. And it's like, well, I'd just buy like 3 things at like a £5 because it's like you can't really lose. It's like you only need one of them to to make 10 or a score and you broke level. And spending £200 on something for it to make 80.
It's not a good idea, is it?
And the thing is with Ammo Racing, and I'm not criticising their projects, I am, but the fact that you're spending, say, on book 2 purchases, some book 1 purchases, but they're not bred in the purple, so your chances of success, I think it's a bad strategy. I think you're better off buying either bottom end or top end, very top or very bottom. Because if you buy very bottom, it's like the chances are that you're gonna have a lot of crap, but you can also like just get the ones that are crap totally well handicapped off 50 and have
you're
some
going
fun
home with a few quid.
Yeah, exactly. And the good one, and after throwing a few darts, eventually you're going to get a freak, a good one for no money. Whereas you're spending 100 grand on like that 100 to 150 price range. You see so many of them, don't you? Like between say 80 grand and 150 grand. And oh God, I'd love to do research on it to see how many ended up, absolutely useless.
Most of them,
yeah. Well, because if you look at the demographic of flat rated horses. Most flat rated horses, the average sort of median rate is about 70 to 75. So, in effect, if you're spending 100 grand, most of the time you should be getting a little better than like 75.
Yeah.
Like, because if the median is sort of 75 as an average flat horse, that's your average rating of all your stock. Yeah. So, if you're spending 100, I reckon that would put that probably maybe just above 75. So, you're getting a lot of 75, 80 horses for your 100,000. And I just think you're better off. If I'd got million, like I'd probably just buy 2 or 3, and I'd go to a bloodstock agent that I trusted. That don't exist. And I'd get the help of whatever I thought I could trust, and I would just compete with Coolmore on these, and I'd just buy 3 monsters, and I'd just hope that one of those 3. So, say if you've 2 million to spend, I'd spend, I don't know, 600, 800. Yeah. And just hope that one of those 3, that's all you'd need as well. One of those 3 would turn out to be, a real good group animal, like a real high quality group animal. And I think that's your best chance rather than buying 20 at 100, if you know what I mean. Anyway, that's how I see it. That's what I'd do anyway, John. Great question. We've had this question before, but we also appreciate that there is new listeners, and as the show grows, we had our record number of listeners last week. So thank you to all of you out there. It's really fun to know that people are enjoying the show and backing a few winners as well. And this comes from Ollie Keynes, and he said, if you had the pick of the flat jockeys as an owner in the UK, who would you take to be your retained riders, John?
No question for me, Duran Fentiman. Definitely.
Duran.
Absolutely, Duran. If it's physically possible, Duran will follow the instructions that I would give him. And that's a priceless quality in my book. He wouldn't come in and tell me what he thought or anything like that. He does as he's told. And he's a smashing lad, and he can ride. And that would do me down to the ground. And plus, you wouldn't be getting 2 points knocked off your price because he was riding it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think if I were employing two jockeys, I'd employ two jockeys that could go both ways and were happy about going both ways, because it's kind of you need, obviously, as we know, in a fully functional stable yard operation that's a good operation, you need to handicap your best one, your not so good ones, and you need to be able to progress your better ones and do that in such a way that they carry on improving. And I think that's why you need two experienced lads to ride the work and to plot your campaigns with all your horses, because I think that's where some stables go wrong. I'm not going to mention stables, but I do think some get the horses terribly handicapped, and then it's just an uphill battle for the owner. Like I think you mentioned on previous shows, John, where an owner will get sick of the game if they can't win.
Well, you want your 55 horses off 45, don't you?
Well, that's it. You want your 55 horses off 45, and your better horses you want
45.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jack and Linda Ramsden never bothered back in day getting them off 37, and then progressing to 90s. They weren't bothered.
No.
Anyway, some great questions. Right, we're going to move on to the best part of the show now, where you can basically write all your Betfair lays, and as you listen to me and John trying to decipher tomorrow's racing, which is principally with the TV races. Yeah, from Newbury and HQ Newmarket. Just a weather report to bore you all. I'm turning to Michael Fish on this episode, but Newbury and Newmarket are probably going to get some kind of showers tomorrow and possibly throughout the morning, but it's not definite. But bear that in mind with your betting, that we're definitely looking at sort of softish ground at Newbury tomorrow, and Newmarket, could get softer if the showers hit. So I'd forget your bang fast grounders for tomorrow if you're studying. So we'll start off at Newmarket, John, and we'll go to the Betway Fairway Stakes, which is a listed contest over a mile and a quarter. And the favourite for this at current prices, at around the 11 to 8 mark, is the Ed Dunlop trained John Leaper. John?
It's a little bit depressing, this, isn't it, really, that we're going to have to be betting John Leaper at 11 to 8 when we could have got stuck in at 8 to 1 on Thursday. Holy moly. The more I think about Thursday's race, the more I think he'd have won it. And it is a little bit of a shame that Ed Warfel has gone down this route and decided to run in the easier listed race, which I think he'll win. All right. I just think it's a crying shame that he didn't have a pop at the Dante with this horse, because I was that impressed with him on seasonal debut. I think he'd have gone very, very close in that Dante. High definition was very disappointing as regards tactical speed. He might have looked better if the entire field had chased Holly Doyle, but in the context of this race, anyway, I mean, the way this is run isn't even forced to suit him, you know, because chances are Franny will get a soft solo, and he'll probably take a bit of picking up. But when he does, you'll be able to say, well, there's a Derby horse there. I backed him Thursday night for the Derby, I'll be honest. I backed him at 20-1. I thought, well, he's probably our most likely type now. And as I say, if he manages to pick up, say, the shells coming out the dip, it won't be a bad performance. I don't think he'll win it.
Yeah, I'm totally concurring with you, John. Like, a little bit of disappointment, because obviously it is a fairly short price. I think justifiably so, because we're getting the £4 from Fancy Man.
Yeah.
Which basically, if Fancy Man runs his race, we're going to have to run to about 100, I'd say, to beat him. I think we will run to 100. I think that's that. I really think that. I was so impressed with the horse at Newcastle, and you know that was kind of like, for me, like you said, when he was not entered in the Dante at declaration stage, I was left with a real tinge of disappointment. Now, with you, when you mentioned the Johnston horse there, see the shells. I mean, this is where I don't get trainers at times, but maybe look, they're trying to see if this horse can be a turf horse. I don't see one way how this is going to end up a turf horse, because it's got the perfect all-weather action. The mother Seychelles was, she basically won 4 races from 22 starts, all on the all-weather. That's all she won on, which were Wolverhampton, Lingfield, and Kempton. And I can see what they're doing. You know, they're trying to make him into a turf performer. He is going to be a turf horse for me. So I don't think this field's very, very good at all. I think John Leaper will be in a different level. But like you say, it's a bit galling that we have to take a rather short price to find out. But beautifully bred, and I can't fault your anti-post bet in the Derby at all, because Franco out of Snow Fairy is just it's a bit like Snow Lantern to Dave Richard Annans. The breeding just takes your eye, and I just love what he did at Newcastle. So I hope, to be honest, I want the Derby to liven up a bit, and I'd love to see a 6-length win, powering clear from John Leaper tomorrow. That would really liven the Derby betting up. That so
and an announcement that they're taking it somewhere else to train it.
It's off to King Kong.
Yeah.
Anyway, we move on to the 240 race. It's the Betware King Charles II Stakes, listed contest over 7 furlongs, and leading the market on the drift slightly since they opened up. Around the 9-4 mark is the Jane Chapel Higham train filly John Bellosa. Have you any view in this?
Well, to be honest with you, I thought Bellosa would probably win. I didn't think you could bet it at the price. But for me, I mean, I was really struggling to come up with alternatives. And I mean, this sounds like, well, it probably is very depressing tipping from me, because I mean, we've got funky ground at Newmarket that could be anything, and here I am chunking up sharp price favourites all the time, which I feel a bit sick about. But again, I'm really struggling to find a viable one to beat this.
Well, it was interesting because I had a very late piece of information for this. It came at around lunchtime on its debut, and I was told that it was as good as the filly that ran in the Nell Gwyn. The one that won the Nell Gwyn? Yeah. And she was up with this sort of level. So, obviously, and she duly absolutely thrapped them and spanked them. Just an interesting stat in the race for anyone playing. Ray from Ralph Beckett training
dual
team. Recently dual licensed. Devil Waller, first time blinkers. Well, Ralph, he's pretty good with first time blinkers, but, and there's a massive but here, he's not from 24 with colts. So all his first time blinkers have come with geldings or fillies. So whilst if you read your stats, and you maybe have got software to do that and check all Ralph's race first time blinds, just look at that. Not from 24, and I think they've not run well. So whether that's just too much testosterone in those ball sacks combined with the old shades, it's like probably Ron Jeremy on acid, that kind of thing. So so Devil Waller, it's a bad stat for Ralph Rafe there, 0 from 24. Right, we move on to the 3:15 at Newmarket, which is a very competitive handicap. We finally got some competitiveness in the Newmarket card, and it's a 6-furlong event, Class 2, and the 7-2 favourite, as I speak, is Jumbay, trained by Eve Johnson-Houghton, ridden by Will Buick. John, any view in this 6-furlong handicap?
Oh, God, people's going to hate this. I really think Jumbay is an absolute dyed-in-the-wool two-star napper here. And it's just embarrassing.
This is like Blogger.
I know. We just want the stallion lumping on, and we'll all sit there shouting, lift him home.
John, before you carry on with the explanation for your fab, can you just Blogger's got suspended on Twitter?
No.
He has. Account suspended. That Pierre Charles Boudreau, his best pal, has got.
I've seen what's happened to him. So...
he's been finger blasted.
Oh my God! Is the Blogger involved? Oh my God!
We don't know. All of a sudden, account suspended, gone.
He didn't blog about that, did he?
No. Unless the stallions,
the last interaction I had with the Blogger, it was in a off license in Streatham, and he bought this Jeroboam of champagne, and he said he took a picture and he said, "Look at this, the stallion's going to love this for his birthday." And I responded with, "Make sure we lube it up well then." And
did he block?
No, he didn't actually. I don't think he saw it, but the stallion actually liked it. So, don't know.
Well, there we go. Anyway, go on. Sorry, John.
That's all right. Jumbay. I've sort of had my eye on this since it won on its debut at Ascot. It's a proper powerhouse of a horse, this. Right thick, solid-looking chest, like right across the chest, and that. It's all muscle and looks a bit more like a 4-year-old, to be honest. But it's built like a spade ball, really. And
yeah.
I was really surprised she tried to stretch it out over a mile last year. And it travelled up like Alan Wicker on steroids, but it didn't see its race out. And then she dropped it to 6 at Newmarket at the Craven meeting. I wasn't quite sure it looked cherry ripe. I thought it still looked a bit slack. And yes, it should have won that, really. Didn't get the best of runs. Well, got a shit run, to be honest. I think this with plenty of pace on, I think this can run to like 100 plus, 105 maybe at this sort of trip. That's what I'd expect to see from it at some point this season. And I don't say why not tomorrow, you know. Travelled nicely on good the soft second time up last year at Newbury, which was quite messy ground. There was a fair few clemmies flying about, so I'm not too worried about the ground. 3-1's not great, but, you know, rather have 3-1 a winner than 7-2 a loser.
You know, I concur with your sort of reasoning there. I thought it was like, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. And the only thing is, like you said, we've now tipped 3 fabs, and I feel awful. I'm starting to feel guilty. You know, I'm going in my guilt trip mode, and
I feel dirty.
Yeah, you know, like unclean. Yeah. And so what I thought I'd do is I'm going to pop up a selection here in people's minds. Bickerstaff of Carl Burks, a Mason, which often enjoy a lot of cut, and I think this horse is definitely better with cut in the ground. Very, very impressive after missing the break on debut when beating Cotton Lane, and then disappointed actually in a listed race. Went off 13 to 8 favourite. I actually tipped it, which tells you all you need to know. And it ran terrible, and it just never. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird run. So whether that came a bit too soon after its debut, 17 days after, I don't know. You could have made that excuse. Then on reappearance, it won at Ponte. Possibly a little bit lucky to do so from an unlucky in running. I think it was Captain Jumbo, Uncle Jumbo of Kevin Ryan's was unlucky in the race, but ran perfectly well behind Creative Force last time at Newmarket. And I thought it found the ground, John, a little bit too quick. You could just see it struggling down that hill on that quick ground. And I just feel if there's a bit more juice in the surface, I think, and as well, they've got Rusty Leoff and Adam Kirby on.
Yes, that's got to be a plus.
Yeah, a massive plus. So a bit of a jockey upgrade, and I thought that could run well at a price if you fancy going at a price, because it'll love conditions. Like I said, as long as there's a bit of juice in the ground, I think Bickerstaff's a little bit of value around 12 to 1. If Jumbie's sort of not your price in a competitive race, but John's got very sound reasoning for that, and I agree with everything he said on Jumbie. So now we move to Newbury. And we go to the 150 race, I believe, which is the first televised race, terrestrial televised race on the card. And it's the 6 furlong Carnarvon Stakes, a listed contest where Tactical for Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy is the 2 to 1 favourite for the race, John.
Yes, and guess what we're tipping? It's to get the flags out job, isn't it? Because the Queen can mourn no longer for the Duke of Ed because she's going to have a winner tomorrow. And this will be the one to put the smile back on her face and a spring in her step. And let's hope she has a walk over to Newbury and has a watch of this. It's got plenty in hand on official figures. It's proven its well-being. It's won on good to soft. I don't know what you need to come up with to get it beat, really. I mean, maybe not entirely at its best good to soft, but I mean, it was a great total it won. You know, sorry, but 2 to 1. There you go, folks.
So that's John, blogger, tipping up Tactical, and he's to be fair, obviously, you know, cracking. It did run well last time to beat Naval Crown. I felt, because it didn't quite go all its own way. So I was impressed by it, but I did feel also that Creative Force was definitely going the right way. The win at Newmarket, Jumbie was in third, so maybe John, What time does Jumby run tomorrow? Let's have a look. So we've got Jumby running at 3:15.
Yeah.
So if Creative Force wins the 150, in other words, it beats Tactical, then you need to go on your Betfair and just literally just if Creative Force passes the line in front or a good close second to Tactical, say for example, then I would just start clicking on Jumbo, whatever, because obviously the form is going to be uber strong then if Creative Force runs a big one here.
12 grand at threes.
Yeah, so as I said, that would be my little poke. I'm not really tipping him because I think it's a really tricky heat, to be honest, but I do think Creative Force is going the right way and getting the £3 from Tactical. He's only got to improve £6 on official. I think he can improve £4 or £5 on what I've seen. So I think it could be quite tight. So we move on. We've got nothing. I mean, John did like Tactical in that at 2-1. I'm not really offering one in there. We go on to the Al Rayyan Stakes, which is a 1.5 mile race. It was registered as the Aston Park, as most of us know it. Group 3 contest, and me and John were very sweet on Al Azi last time. The Haggis, and even money shot. John, is this going to be in your blogger hacker?
It ought to be, in fairness. I mean, it's got the proven well-being card up its sleeve, hasn't it? Whereas Logician has a few things to overcome, really. It has the run at York, where it ran like it had AIDS.
Yeah, that was really bad.
But, I mean, prior to that, you've got the likes of the Ginger Hitler saying, well, that's his replacement for Enable next year. It could be anything. It'll win King George in the Breeders' Cup. So, do we disregard the stinking run at York, after which John and the real Slim Thady knocked him off? Or do we assume that he's going to come back needing this? It's going to be a confidence builder, and Frankie will just be nudging along and making ground up steadily while Assy makes good with the cash tomorrow. It's a tricky call for me. If somebody put a gun to me, I'd probably have to say Al Assy.
This Favaka's going.
I know, it's going to be 10 trebles, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not so hot on John Gosden at the moment. I know he had Derab winning today very impressively at Newmarket, and I would imagine that one might enter into the Derby picture, but they might be, to be honest, they might be looking at it the way it won, that more over 1.25 miles than 1.5 miles. But I just think that John Gosden's runners prior to today were 9% coming into today, the last fortnight, from quite a few runners. And I just think one or two of them, and I've noticed this, one or two of them are getting very, very warm down the necks, and are very, very keen in the races. And whether it's the feed, whether it's the, like the training, I don't know. It could be training, I don't know.
Well, that thing in silver colours today was a stretchy job, toe out, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tenbury Wells, yeah.
Yeah.
And all the vibes from the yard on that were strong. So, well, I don't know if these lads are doing maybe a little bit too much on the gallops, but they certainly all very keen. Look, you watch John Gosden's runners last 2 weeks, if you want to go back through them. A lot of them are very, very keen. And I just wonder, it could be something in the feed, it could be anything why they're running like this. But so I'm against most of Gosden's runners at the moment. Most. I'm not saying all, but most of them. And I would like to put up Thunderous as a sporting choice in this. The reason being, and I don't think he's up to the level of Al Azi, and certainly not up to the level of Logician if you knew it was right and totally cherry ripe. But I actually think the key to this horse will be softer ground, which he'll get tomorrow. He's not had it often, and he's had it against highest ground when it won the Dante, and basically outstayed highest ground. Now we know that highest ground was much the best that race. It just obviously kicked too soon, but I just think that this horse has not had a chance to shine yet. Over a mile and a half with a bit of juice in the ground. The run behind Ron Priestley I thought wasn't too bad last time. Didn't again for a horse with injury problems, and I believe he's had a fracture of a pelvis. I could be wrong on that, but I believe he has. Now, do you want to run a horse like that on fast ground? All the time. It's. I reckon he'll appreciate.
It won't bother the kilt. He's a qualified vet,
No, he just carries on and runs. He'll probably run it at Hamilton in Braveheart next year on firm. I don't know. But anyway, Thunderous, I would say, is a sporting choice. Like, if you fancy opposing the market leaders.
Just to illustrate what a meeting of minds this horse has brought together under one banner, the quote in the Racing Post is from the all-seeing oracle that is Harry Herbert, racing manager to Highclere. He disappointed badly first time up. He'd been off a long time and really needed the race. He took a big step forward next time, and Mark and Charlie Johnston, trainer and assistant, believe he'll do so again. It's a track and ground that should really suit him, but it's a tough race. So thanks for that, Harry.
Yeah, he's enlightened everyone there. So that'd be my sporting choice, really, just because, as I say, I don't really want to back Alazi at evens. I wouldn't back Logician off the absence and not knowing what it's going to do. So I'd just go for a little bit of sport for Thunderous to maybe cause an upset on probably ideal.
You can say Frankie just doing the chicken wings 3 out if Logician doesn't fail great, can't you?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's no good to anybody that's waiting on 10 trebles.
No good to punters.
Not on 10 trebles now.
We
blogger.
We move on to the 3 o'clock, which is the very competitive on prices anyway, and it's got my nap in it. It's got my weekend nap, John.
Oh.
The London Gold Cup, 9-2 favourite, Bay Bridge for the Baron and Brian Moore. John, what's your thoughts here?
I don't know what to make of Bay Bridge, to be honest. He seems to be getting his better handicappers handicapped on the all weather these days.
Yeah.
And then they come into these races and we don't know what the blue hell to expect, in all fairness. Physically, I'm not convinced with the horse. I think it's a little bit late of bone. It's not a type that I'm generally looking to see a lot of progression from. I think once you've had 3 or 4 runs with some of these, there's not a lot left in the till. With that in mind, I took a look at Jabawi Sands, who I think's very reasonably handicapped off 86. It's a quiet sort of horse, his manner and everything, and I think he's one of these that only does enough. I was very impressed with him, that said, at Ripon last time. Just the way he went about the job, and Ripon can be tricky. I know he rank odds on and all the rest of it, but he hit a couple of them undulations on the wrong stride, and it never bothered the horse at all. He just carried on regardless. And prior to that, I thought the run over a trip way too short against Macho was really, really good. I'll be damned if this is only an 86 horse at the end of the year. I don't know if it's ready for this, but at 8-1, I think it's the horse with the biggest amount of potential in the race, shall we say.
Okay. So John is with Jubawi Sands, Roger Varian train runner. Best price about 9-1, I believe. This is my nap of the weekend in the race, and it is Hugo Palmer's Oz Legend. That's around the 12-1 mark by Australia, and I think he's going to love the soft ground. He was basically, I think, just hating it at Windsor. It was like a road, and I just think he hated it. I don't think the pace of the race was right either. They gave the Godolphin horse an easy lead as if they'd all backed it. This horse basically wants 1.5 miles, really, to be at peak. So the fact he ran so well over 1.25 miles, I think augurs well for today on the softer conditions on a track that will certainly suit him a lot better than Windsor. Now you look at the form of the Newcastle race; it's quite strong form. It beat a horse called Council, which ran a next second to Fox's Tails. I know Fox's Tails disappointed at Chester in the listed race behind El Drama, but the third horse, Al Fadil, that came out and won at the Chester meeting in the 1.25 maiden in quite impressive fashion. I think they've left a lot on the mark here off 82. I think it's a smart horse. I don't know what kind of level it can get to, but I certainly think it's better than 82, and I think it's a very, very good bet at around the 12-1 odds available. So I hope you fill your boots there on Oz Legend. So in particular, so I can't back it in the morning. Right, we move on to the 3:35, the last of our preview. I think we've overstayed our welcome on this show. We're enjoying it. But we go to the 3:35. It's the Lockinge. It's the big race. Palace Pier, John, 4-6 for the outer form, Gosden Yard.
That's the thing, isn't it? Do you take a chance on Gosden having isolated this one or not? I'm massively disappointed that it's pissed down at Newbury and we haven't got this on fast ground, to be honest, because I would have had a 66-1 nap for you in this. Because there's one in here. I don't even know if it'll run tomorrow now. It was nowhere near ready on its racecourse debut when it was 6.5 lengths behind Palace Pier. And since then, it hasn't had its ground. And that's Lord Campari, Roger Arians.
Oh, the Lord, yes.
Its next 3 runs have all been on unsuitable ground. It got away with it in its novice, and then it ran a listed race at Newmarket, didn't like it, and then ran on very soft at Deauville and didn't like it. And this had gone completely under the radar, and I was thinking, yes, I'm going to smash the living crap out of this on Saturday. And it's rained. So I'm depressed.
Depressed beyond belief.
I am, actually, because I had this finishing somewhere near. Obviously, you're stretching it to say to make the same progress as Palace Pier, but Palace Pier was ready for that debut. It wasn't, and it's all set to, at some point this season, it will get its fast ground and get a strongly run mile, and hopefully we'll get paid out. But in that one's absence, I would probably suggest my Oberon as an each way alternative to the favourite. Okay. I thought it travelled up nice in the LSF, and I don't think the ground will bother it too much. Haggis is probably the best stable in the country at the moment, and I think you could go worse than that each way.
Yeah. So my Oberon at 10-1 for William Haggis and Tom Marquand is John's sort of selection after he was disappointed in the ground for the Simcock runner, bless him. So my selection in the race, I'm going for Safe Voyage of John Quinns. I think he had a cracking season last year. I think the one worry is that he's 8 years old, and obviously horses of that age have never won a Lockinge. But I have an interesting stat for you that I think a lot of punters are going to find this very interesting. Right, horses in the Lockinge, John.
Yeah.
Of the last 22 years, for those that like your stats, 18 out of 22 winners haven't had a recent run. Right, so only 4 have won the race with having a spin. That includes the favourite here. So basically, we've got a total of 110 runners that have had a spin in the last 22 years in Lockinge. Only 4 have won from 110.
Wow.
Right, 18 from 104 have won the Lockinge without a spin. So I wonder if it's sort of like a Guineas for older horses. It's often been remarked on that. The Lockinge is basically a Guineas for the older horses. And I just wonder sometimes if that, if best fresh is the key. So I went with Safe Voyage because of the season he had last year. And I had a little word with one of my contacts to get in touch with the Quinn Yard today, and they say the horse is in absolutely ridiculously good form. So that was good enough for me. I felt, he's got the form last year. He's been very, very impressive in his races last year at a high level. And I thought if there were any chinks in the Gosden armour at 4 to 6, Safe Voyage would be possibly the one to have a look at a price. I believe about 16 to 1 each way. If you can get some good each way terms, I'd be looking at Safe Voyage each way in the Lockinge. John, any other business for the weekend?
Well, the only other one I was interested in at the two big tracks was actually another favourite, say Empress, in the following race. I'm hoping she'll make up into an Oaks candidate, but you couldn't be backing her at that price.
Well, the other thing with See Empress, I felt as well, is the ground, because she's by See the Stars, which is predominantly fast, not all the time, but predominantly fast. But I'm more concerned on the dam side.
Yeah, Exceeding Excel there, yeah.
It's Exceeding Excel and King Mambo. So basically, you've got nothing soft there whatsoever. So I'd be a little bit worried about the sort. But interestingly, though, John, we know that C Empress has had 3 entries this week, and Willie has picked this one. Musidora, Michael Seeley, and this one, which is probably the easier of the 3.
I say, given the races he had to pick from, I think he's probably not taken the ground into account and thought, well, she can pace that. But then, as you say, there's going to be it's quite likely to be a ground issue, I mean,
especially if it comes. I would not back her if it came up soft. If it came up genuine soft ground tomorrow.
No. But he probably won't run it.
Well, that's it. He'd possibly have to withdraw, but I don't know. He may think she'll go on it. This is the thing. Sometimes there's anomalies, but on pedigree, she shouldn't go on it. But there we go.
If anybody wants to back one out the polio-ridden Gosden Yard in that race, At a Pinch was a big eye catcher on debut. Didn't get any sort of run at all. By Luke de Vega and out of a Montjour mare. Gonna stay all day. Won't mind bad ground. 28 to 1 in a field of 8, and then I think that's probably a bit of alternative value there,
Cracking, yeah, absolutely. Those sort of prices, like you said, Luke de Vega, Montjour. Yeah,
and you've got Big John and Thady sending a maiden for a listed race.
Yeah, interesting. Right, we're going to leave it there. We've probably overrun tonight, but we've enjoyed it. Hope you have. And don't forget, Sunday night, we're back for the sermon. We've got some banging topics for the sermon, so don't miss us on Sunday night. That's all from me and John. Hope you back some winners tomorrow. Bye for now.